wider European integration, strengthening the European economy as experienced in the World War II, the prevention of policies of Germany or another European state to take over Europe through force and violence, the prevention of the distribution policies of the USSR, the need for a political unity in Europe to be a third power between the US and the USSR in the bipolar international system.
Petersburg Missions. It was adopted on June 19, 1992. It is important in terms of showing determination that the Western European Union, WEU, is developed as a defense element of the EU, and to be used as a tool for strengthening the NATO's European wing. The WEU member states have announced that they are ready to put all the elements of their conventional armed forces into use in military missions under the leadership of the WEU. WEU member states can use military forces in the framework of humanitarian missions and rescue missions, peace missions, and within the framework of the missions set for conflict prevention and crisis management, including peacekeeping. The Western European Union, WEU, was the international organization and military alliance that succeeded the Western Union, WEU, after the 1954 amendment of the 1948 Treaty of Brussels. The WEU implemented the modified Brussels Treaty. During the Cold War, the Western Bloc included the WEU member states and the United States and Canada as part of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Turkey became a party to GATT in 1953 after the 1950-51 Torquay tariff negotiations. General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT, set of multilateral trade agreements aimed at the abolition of quotas and the reduction of tariff duties among the contracting nations. When GATT was concluded by 23 countries at Geneva, in 1947, to take effect on January 1, 1948, it was considered an interim arrangement pending the formation of a United Nations agency to supersede it. When such an agency failed to emerge, GATT was amplified and further enlarged at several succeeding negotiations. It subsequently proved to be the most effective instrument of world trade liberalization, playing a major role in the massive expansion of world trade in the second half of the 20th century. By the time GATT was replaced by the World Trade Organization, WTO, in 1995, 125 nations were signatories to its agreements, which had become a code of conduct governing 90% of world trade. Agreements relating to the trade of goods. Agriculture Agreement. Anti-dumping Agreement. Agreement on Subsidies and Compensation Measures. Protection Measures Agreement. Technical Barriers to Trade Agreement. Health and Phytosanitary Measures Agreement, Customs Valuation Agreement. Inspection Agreement. Rules of Origin Agreement and Import Licenses Agreement. The terms regionalization and globalization by pointing out the similarities and differences. The importance of regionalization in terms of global political economy is the impact of economic and political regionalization on the international system. Political regionalization means that the actors group together to leave some of their sovereignty to the management of the regional structure and to meet in a common denominator in political decisions. With globalization, the impact of regionalization in the international system is also seen in the areas of international peace and conflict resolution. The process of globalization, marked by political, economic, socio-cultural, and technological developments, has quickly become one of the concepts emphasized and analyzed in the current political and academic debates. The institutions of the EU. The Council of the EU. It ensures harmony between the economic policies of the member states and sign international agreements with third countries and international organizations. The European Commission, in addition to being the guardian of the law of the Union, it is the executive body. The European Parliament, it is the democratic representative organ of the Union. Court of Justice of the EU, it acts as the judicial body of the EU. European Court of Auditors, it checks whether all the income and expenditure of the European Union has been made in accordance with the law and whether fiscal management is consistent. The functions of the international organizations, namely, SCO, GATT, WTO, OECD, NAFTA. The aim of the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or Shanghai Pact, is to strengthen mutual trust, good neighborliness, and friendship between member states, to cooperate in the protection of regional peace, security, and stability, to fight terrorism crimes, separatism, organized crime, and illegal migration, as well as to develop cooperation in politics, economics, science and technology, culture and education, energy and environment. GATS, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. Specific objective is to minimize the barriers to international trade with tariffs in order to achieve the general objectives. The WTO, World Trade Organization, has two main objectives: to enable member states to reduce the barriers that make it difficult for other member states to enter their markets for the free movement of goods and services on the international level, and to resolve disputes between member states that do not comply with these rules within the scope of the DSB. The mission of the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, is to promote policies that will improve the economic and social well-being of people around the world. NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, is considered to be the natural course of increasing commercial integration between the private sector in North American countries, and the elimination of obstacles to such integration. The multinational corporations, MNCs, which are also used in borrowing and lending, are contributing to the host country's export opportunities, foreign exchange inflows, capital accumulation, and production capacity by direct means thanks to their extensive experience in foreign markets and the sales and marketing organizations distributed across the world. The benefits of the globalization: free movement of goods and services, emergence of new forms of employment, increase in global access to the service and goods, increase in international cooperation. The founding member of the ECSC: Belgium, Luxembourg, West Germany, France, Italy, the Netherlands. The European Coal and Steel Community, ECSC, was an organization of 6 European countries created after World War II to regulate their industrial production under a centralized authority. It was formally established in 1951 by the Treaty of Paris, signed by Belgium, France, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and West Germany. The ECSC was the first international organization to be based on the principles of supranationalism, and started the process of formal integration which ultimately led to the European Union. The ECSC was first proposed by French Foreign Minister Robert Schumann on May 9, 1950 as a way to prevent further war between France and Germany. He declared his aim was to make war not only unthinkable but materially impossible, which was to be achieved by regional integration, of which the ECSC was the first step. The treaty would create a common market for coal and steel, blueprint for today's European Commission, European Parliament, the Council of the European Union and the European Court of Justice. The founding countries of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization: Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, People's Republic of China, Russian Federation, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, or Shanghai Pact, is a Eurasian political, economic, and security alliance, the creation of which was announced on June 15, 2001 in Shanghai, China by the leaders of China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization Charter, formally establishing the organization, was signed in June 2002 and entered into force on September 19, 2003. The original 5 nations, with the exclusion of Uzbekistan, were previously members of the Shanghai Five Group, founded on April 26, 1996. Since then, the organization has expanded its membership to 8 countries when India and Pakistan joined SCO as full members on June 9, 2017 at a summit in Astana, Kazakhstan. The founding purposes of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization: improvement of friendship, trust, and neighborly relations, combating terrorism and illegal immigration, Developing joint action between member states on politics, economy, energy, education, and environment. The objectives of the WTO. Meeting the common market needs of member states. To ensure environmental cleanliness and to protect the environment. Implementation of plans and programs for the needs of member states. The general objectives of GATT, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. Increasing the welfare of member states. To ensure the use of world resources with stable growth. To contribute to the development of international trade. Issues discussed in NAFTA negotiations, North American Free Trade Agreement. Automotive. Textile. Clothing. The two important organizations within the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. International Energy Agency. Nuclear Energy Agency. Richard Robinson's categorization of multinational corporations in terms of their historical development. International corporation. Multinational corporation. Transnational corporation. Supranational corporation. The definitions of regionalization and globalization. The concept of regionalization is the political administrative process of the regions for economic and political activities and welfare and service delivery. It is also used to refer to the formation of political groups or blocs aimed at reducing regional barriers to trade and investment. The concept of globalization refers to a complex world system that intertwines beyond individualization and nationalization. Globalization refers to all the processes in which the peoples of the world are incorporated into a single world society. The contribution of the Jean Monnet Plan and Schumann Declaration to European integration. Jean Monnet, in 1946, introduced a plan that included European economic, political, and cultural unification and the establishment of the United States of Europe, the liberalization of trade and the establishment of economic and political ties between Europe and the United States. This plan was based primarily on the idea that political integration would take place in Europe after the economic integration. In accordance with Jean Monnet's plan, Robert Schumann announced that Declaration on the Establishment of the European Coal and Steel Community, ECSC, in 1950. In the context of the Schumann Declaration, on April 18, 1951, the Treaty of Paris was signed. The main objective of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or Shanghai Pact, SCO, is to strengthen mutual trust, good neighborliness, and friendship between member states, to cooperate in the protection of regional peace, security, and stability, as well as to develop cooperation in politics, economics, science and technology, culture and education, energy and environment. The General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT's objectives were to remove barriers and liberalize foreign trade. The objectives of the World Trade Organizations, WTO, are raising the living conditions of the member states, provide full employment, ensuring the steady growth of real income, supporting the market demand of member states, improving the production of goods and services, expanding their trade. The main objective of the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, is to provide a rising standard of living in member countries thanks to increased economic growth and employment. The relationship between globalization and multinational corporations, MNCs. MNCs are the most important actors of the globalization process and one of the dynamics that accelerates the globalization process. MNCs have come to the forefront with the acceleration of the globalization process. Their areas of activity and capital structures have developed. The fact that large amounts of capital can be transferred from anywhere in the world through MNCs, that these corporations can move from regions where wages or taxes are high to regions where wages and taxes are low, that the speed of internet and rapid communication increase, and the availability of new shopping opportunities such as e-commerce increase are the flexibility of globalization. Especially the high-tech MNCs benefit from these flexibility created by globalization, and they can also be effective on the process.